Chief Weiniger and Chief Dennison are switching commands. So we were only able to do a 5-day overlap with the two of them, which means Todd and I would be in a position of having a hard time finding someone to represent the police department, which I think is challenging because as we all know, I'm not a police officer. And so sometimes when you guys get into the details of stuff, it's just, I think, more helpful for all of us that someone's on the side. So I'm not sure what the solution is, but that we inadvertently picked the worst week before knowing when a new police chief was going to start, and when how that would work with Ron. So I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming we just need to find new dates, but I did want to flag that.
Okay.
I imagine you guys also want to participate in the overlapping of the chiefs or whatever. So it just seems like a weird time to try to do that.
We'll get a little busy.
Yeah.
We'll find a workaround by the end of the
Okay, great.
Okay, so unless you have anything that you would like to cover to start off with, we're prepared to pass a proposal.
Nothing at this time from the union side.
Okay. All right, so we heard yesterday, we heard that you all weren't in a position to have conversations about the individual items. And so, and also had requested that we send it back in a package. So we went back, did some work, and are prepared to do that now. So I'll pass to you what will be city's package proposal number 3. Let me start though. It might make sense if I give you the 2 modifications we've made first. Let me do that first. We have 2 modified proposals to go with the package. So I'm going to move the first one. My windows to line up. First one should be there now. It is yeah, there it is. It's city proposal 19, a modified version of that. Based on the conversation we've been having about missed mandatory paid training. So we went ahead per the union's request yesterday and struck that language that's the 4 words, but not limited to. And I marked this up against, and with too many versions, it gets confusing, but the only change that we made to this is striking in 4E1F the words, but not limited to.
Okay.
That one should be pretty clear based on our conversations yesterday.
Okay.
Any questions?
Think we have any questions on that?
Okay.
That's the only language that was struck through.
Yep.
Actual proposal, but not limited to, is still in there.
Mine is crossed out.
It's crossed out on mine.
Okay, so
And mine.
that's not good. Maybe mine hasn't.
You should just close it then. It's a
It's struck through on mine.
mine too.
Okay. I just picked the one guy that doesn't have it. Yeah, I'll say
Exactly. Change these.
That's fair.
All right, let's see, did that one go in? Nope, not yet. Okay, the next one we have for you is city proposal 21. And this is We revised this proposal based on the conversation we had yesterday, where there were questions around how this process would work. These are the changes to the juthering and the SOG limits that we discussed. So the changes there, the one thing you'll see is we changed the term patrol watch to patrol team. Just because that's the way that I understand that it's referred to. And to address the questions that we heard yesterday, we added language there following the sentence talking about the druthering process. Well, the sentence that says during the druthering process, 2 slots on each patrol team will be designated for SOG members. In response to the questions that we received yesterday, we added once those 2 slots are filled, no other members are eligible to be placed on that team. And then we struck the reference to the normal seniority rights because above you'll see the language already talks about all members assigned to uniformed patrol divisions, excluding step, light duty, etc., have the right to utilize seniority to solely determine their shift by ADA number. And so we thought it was best not to refer to seniority again separately in a way that was different from that, because in our view that covered and clarified sufficiently the seniority process.
This is a biggie, but Ted.
Oh, Ted is still in there.
Must be great.
Yeah. Yeah, he just noted that up in D3. There's still a reference to Ted. I think we can probably just agree globally that any references to Ted would be changed to training in the CLA.
You'll still find it sometimes.
Any questions about that proposal?
Yes, and maybe you said it yesterday, but I forgot. Currently, this is only affecting patrol. Currently, how many members of SOG are in patrol?
15 is by my count.
So you're saying 15 members of SOG in patrol.
That is what I understand. Let me see if I can pull that. Yes, I believe it's 15. So there are 15 options in patrol to choose teams, and there are 15 members. So obviously, we're allotting twice as many options as there are people. But limiting it to 2 per team. To clarify again, that does not include sergeants or lieutenants. We have two.
This is only affecting patrol, correct? Okay.
So the 2 per team doesn't count lieutenants
Or sergeants.
or sergeants. Okay.
One of the things I don't see in here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when it comes to SOG, are they bidding by, since you are creating these spots specific to SOG, and there is seniority within SOG, is there not? I mean,
I don't know what role it plays.
There's a seniority with entry, snipers, CNT, and EOD techs.
I don't know what role seniority plays within those teams. Personally, there may be
Okay.
something because they don't bid shifts. They're all ancillary duties. So I'm not sure what
Right.
role the seniority in the team plays, but
As was CS. Well, I'll get to that. My point is are they bidding for those SOG spots based on seniority in SOG, or are they bidding for those spots based on ADA seniority?
so we had proposed as this reflects by ADA.
By ADA seniority.
Correct.
Okay.
If you have a different idea, we're certainly willing to entertain a counter. I don't think it matters that much to us if you want to work.
Do you have any other questions?
Nope. I don't think I do.
Okay, ready to move on?
Yeah, I don't think we have any other questions for this one.
I just moved in city package proposal number 3. And I went ahead, just for ease of reference, I highlighted the items that have been changed from the prior package. So the first, you'll see there, item number 2, the city is still looking for a 4-year contract and has increased the base pay proposal to 2,222. So that's up 1% in years 3 and 4. The next proposal that we modified is item number 5 and 6. Those are tied together. So here's what we're proposing. I think as the union understands at this point pretty clearly, the promotional process is a high priority item for the city. Through our conversations, we've also heard that the SRO 410 option is a significant priority for the union. And so what we're proposing is a package that would keep the promotional process as proposed and would withdraw any changes to the SRO process. The other 2 that I've highlighted are the proposals that we just went through. City Proposal 21, item number 7, that's the one we just spoke about regarding the SOG. And 11, item number 11 is the Proposal 19 on the missed mandatory training.
If you could clarify for me one more time. You said leaving the promotional process as it was originally proposed by the city. But then, sorry, could you just repeat it again?
Yes. Yes. So the way that we constructed this package, again, we were trying to focus on items that we understood to be priorities for both sides and figure out where we could make some changes to the proposal that would address your concerns and would address the city's concerns as well. And so specifically, I'm calling out the fact that the promotional process, we are looking for that to be a part of the, as proposed on August 15th, we're looking for that to be part of a contract. We also understood that the SRO, the proposal that would create the 5/8 option was something that the union was not particularly interested in. And so our proposal would withdraw changes to that SRO structure.
when you say withdraw, you're removing the proposal to mandate the 5/8 schedule?
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason it's in two
Yeah.
articles is it's referenced twice in our proposals.
Okay.
Don't. I have one or two, if I may.
Yeah.
So yesterday, the city spoke about trying to balance the budgetary issues associated with increasing current officer pay and increasing numbers of positions. And what for 2025 does this offer leave to increase officer positions as far as money goes?
I think it's 13 officers over the next 4 years.
With this
believe that.
proposal?
Mhm.
Okay. And what's,
I believe I can check that for sure, but I believe that's it. So it would be, I can't remember how it breaks down in the years, 5 for FY 2025. And then it kind of breaks down from there.
so I'm sorry, 5 in next year
Mhm.
and then the remaining 8 over the next
I
3.
believe so.
Okay.
Mhm. I believe it's 13.
And what does it cost per new officer added?
The way I look at it is with the wage increase and the fringe benefits, every, I want to make sure I'm saying this right, every 0.5% increase equates to a certain number of officers. I just need to go see what that number is,
Okay.
what that conversion rate is. I mean, it's loose math, but, for the sake of trying to figure this out, it made it easier for me.
Okay. Would you mind letting us know at
Mhm.
some point what
Yeah.
that X is?
And when the city looks at those numbers, just to be clear, that includes the equipment, the cars, like all the stuff as well.
Okay.
So, and then, for the future officers, as you all well know, we're gonna have to address space issues, which are also a financial, impact to the city.
Space, is that what
We
you
have to put these folks somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the police department in particular, has not planned for facilities in a way that is satisfactory to the city or to the police department.
Why is she looking down your end of the table?
Well, he didn't do it.
Yes.
Okay. In 2 weeks, they can blame me. Right now, I'm blaming the last.
It really wasn't wrong. And it wasn't, Chief Lee either, but
Think understanding. One last bit. I don't have any questions. Do you have any questions? No. Okay.
You guys need some time to discuss?
Yeah.
Take a break.
Okay.
how long do you think?
How about
An hour.
an hour?
Yeah. Say 10:30.
10:30?
You got it. Yep.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay, so we had a chance to go back, look at some of the items proposed, and we would like to ship one modified counter over and then a package. So I will see how quickly I can do that. A9. So the first one that should be in A9 is going to be titled City Proposal 12 Recounter. And that has to do with the promotional process.
You need my help. It's my password. Take my old password sometimes. I have to get in my phone.
So this is some of the stuff we discussed yesterday, some of the feedback we were giving up to the city. So we decided to write the language up with some of the things that we believe we can make some headway on.
Can you just explain this? Thanks.
Yes, so yesterday in speaking, we emphasized that we believe we could find some middle ground in regards to if there's language in the proposal that highlights the fact that 6-year officers will not have preference over any external preference. So that if during the lieutenant promotion process, if externals are brought in, 6-year officers are brought in, they will be on the same playing field. That's what we are trying to emphasize with this language while still emphasizing the union's highest priority, which is having internal sergeants having a preference in that process.
So I don't, I may not be understanding it, but I don't see the middle ground here. So are we still looking at a proposal that prioritizes service and BPD over experience?
Service of sergeants and BPD.
Over experience.
Absolutely.
So that continues to be a problem.
We were basing this on the feedback we received from Chief Weiniger yesterday, talking about how this clause works. We were told that the city's belief was that it doesn't work because there's pending litigation on an issue regarding this. So we decided to compromise by trying to clear up any language that would cause any type of issue like that going forward.
Okay, well, we appreciate you putting some thought into that. I think Courtney's point is it remains that we still have an issue there, but appreciate the work on it.
Also have placing in the drop. It'll be titled September 6th, package number 3. Let's get that. So we hear the city on preferring a 4-year. When it comes to base wages, our last 4-year proposal that we had was 22.5. We've come down 1.5% on that to 21. The CID incentive has stayed the same. The shift diff has stayed the same. The on-call has stayed the same. We added in the T8 for proposal 19, which was the mandatory mistraining but not limited to language, as well as the proposal that we were just discussing concerning the promotional process. So those two have been included into the package as well, as an attempt to try and meet the city's top priorities and see if we can actually move the needle here.
I don't have it in front of me, the 1.5. That you moved, it looks like 1% on year one. Am I seeing that correctly?
If I recall, August 14th was the last time we had a full 4-year. The other one was technically 4-year, but it was the reopener. So when I say
Right.
4-year, I meant the 4-year with four
Okay.
kind of raw numbers.
Got it.
That one
one
was
was 7.
22.5. It was like a 7, 6.5, 5, 4, something of that nature.
Okay, so a half in years 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
Okay.
I can go back. Let me just confirm.
I can check it too. I just wasn't sure if you
But it was
had it offhand.
it is a percent now.
All right. I don't have any questions about that. Does anyone else here?
Okay.
Anything else for us before we go
Um,
conversation about?
no,
Just passed?
no. Okay.
All right, we will go discuss, I think, 10:38. We'll check in at 11:15.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You.
Real quick before we forget, on the scheduling for next week. If possible, we don't want to lose those dates. Because we lost all those dates in July. We weren't able to meet the whole month. So we'd like to see is there another commander that can sit in? Can the deputy chief sit in? Is there a captain that could sit in that has institutional knowledge that could help Todd and Courtney through this? We just would not like to lose those 3 dates if possible. We like to keep going because we got them on the books and it is hard to get schedules.
I think the problem we have is the same with all the people you listed, which is the onboarding of the new police chief.
Right. Do we have to give up all the days? Can we give up a couple of days? I mean, is there any compromise we can make rather than just losing the 3 days, if that makes sense? And maybe we can't answer that now. Maybe we got to finagle it a little bit, but the union, we'd really like to keep moving forward. We'd really like to come with a contract. And when we, lose 3 days, that's kind of a big deal. So.
I appreciate that. The city would also like to get this over with. The problem is when we scheduled it, I didn't know the new police chief was starting then. We can look at it, but it's unlikely that I am able to find a BPD substitute for those days.
Yeah.
So let me just talk a little bit about what I'm going to send through in a moment. So we spent some time having a discussion about the promotional process and the things that we talked about this morning. And I can say that the city shares the desire to promote from within. The department has a good track record of doing so and intends to continue doing so. But the city can't put itself in a position where it is unable to hire the best candidate available. And the city owes it to the community to make sure that the citizens' tax dollars are being used to build the most effective agency that it can, and that's what it's committed to doing. So, after significant discussion and thought, we've modified the proposal in a way that is intended to address all of those concerns. So let me put that in first, and I'll walk you through the changes. that we made to proposal number 12. A couple of things. Let me draw your attention first, just to a couple of technical things. Because the conversation that we're having right now contemplates leaving in some reference to the lieutenants, we restored at the last sentence of paragraph 3, we left sergeant to lieutenant in the line of promotion.
Okay.
Middle of page 1. Well, toward the bottom of page 1.
Good. Proposal 12.
Okay.
And it's not shown in markup because that's the original language. So we removed that strike. And then if you scroll down then to the almost the final page, we also restored the sub B paragraph lieutenant promotional process, because again, this language that we have in there would address that. So what we've done is we've added a sentence at the end that says, if in the chief's discretion, candidates are equally qualified, the chief shall give preference to the internal candidate. So taken together, this paragraph would, to the extent that there were external and internal candidates for promotion, that as between the eligible sergeants and the external candidates, preference would be given to the internal candidate if they're deemed to be equally qualified. Just to be clear, if that external candidate is more qualified, that's who we will hire. But the idea here was to give some assurance, at least, that where we have qualified candidates, equally qualified candidates, that preference will go to the internal. Because again, that's something that the department fully supports. Do you have any questions on that?
I do not. Do you have any, AJ?
No.
That seems pretty clear.
Okay. I'll pass you package number 4. And so again, I've highlighted the areas that we've modified. So that is the new proposal on promotional process, modified 9.6. We have increased the base pay proposal years 1 and 2. We have increased 0.5% in each year 1 and 2. So the package proposal for base pay in package number 4 would be 2.5, 2.5, 2.0, 2.0. The other, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna, for quick clarification,
Yes.
previous highlighted ones in previous package,
I removed the
not highlighted, but those changes are still,
this is,
there.
yeah, this is marked against the one I passed this morning against number 3.
okay, perfect.
So for example, you'll see item number 11. That's the missed mandatory training, the language that we spoke about, the language that the unions
As proposed today.
counter proposed a TA. That was in 3, but it was highlighted this morning in package 3. I removed that highlighting.
Understood. Okay. Have any obvious or glaring questions right now for myself? I don't know if you have any. No. Okay. Do you have any, David?
No.
Okay.
Chad, do you have any questions? Not at the moment.
Seems pretty clear cut. We will have to go take a look at these things.
Okay.
Using my fuzzy math, and again, obviously rough math. That puts us about 12% apart from your previous wage proposal and our current wage proposal. So I think you're at 21% over 4 years. That brings us to about 9% over 4 years, equaling a difference of 12%. If percent's roughly $500,000, we're about $6 million apart ish.
Okay.
Take that into account as you think about the constraints on the budget that we've previously outlined.
Okay.
30 minutes?
Yeah, I don't think we need.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Let's go. That's
140.
140. Let's just go 140.
140?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Okay. We're able to meet and speak a little bit, and we have a proposal to send over. It'll be same day. And this one is going to be titled September 6th, package number 4. Our biggest change to this one is
Hold up 1 second if you would, please.
sorry.
Just trying to get it to load. Okay, I'm with you.
Our biggest change to this one is a dropping of the base wages on year 3 from 4.5 to a 4. So coming down another 0.5%, totaling that to 20.5% over 4.
I guess I just wanted to add, so we appreciate the comments that we heard at our last meeting. And most of the time spent there, our last break was considering the promotional process, the changes that you guys have proposed to the promotional process. And looking at it, it really feels like it's just getting rid of the preference. What it is, it's getting rid of the preference entirely for hiring from within. And while Todd, I heard you, comment about a good track record of hiring from within. I mean, the reality is it's been required by policy for a very long time. And so, while the union remains willing to negotiate on that language, and I think from prior proposals, it's clear that there's some language that can be cleaned up there. The idea of just completely getting rid of preference entirely is not something that seems like it can work on this side, or something that the union could sell to the membership. And I think to do so, the deal would have to be a lot sweeter in other areas, which we haven't seen that. It's not where we're at. So definitely willing to work on that language, but we weren't able to come up with anything in this short time that's another sort of middle ground approach to solve it. So I guess we encourage you to come back with something different. If you have different language, we could achieve middle ground on that. We're open to talking about it, but we just didn't get there today.
Well, it just to be clear, it doesn't get rid of the preference. So it changes the language and it changes the way it would work in certain instances, but it retains a preference for an internal candidate where qualifications are equal. What it does not do is require the city to promote somebody who is less qualified.
I don't think the prior policy necessarily requires that either. And I disagree respectfully that it does get rid of the preference. I mean, it puts it entirely within the chief's discretion. So no chief is going to sit there and want an outsider over an insider and then admit that they're otherwise completely equal. As are like two candidates rarely are exactly equal in every way. And so, I mean, it just doesn't, I mean, I get that it gives lip service to the idea of giving preference to the inside, but I don't think it actually gives us any way to enforce that or require it.
Do you have any suggestions on language that would? I want to ask this question, that would give preference, but not require promotion of somebody who we didn't feel was as qualified as another candidate. Is there a way to craft that in language that you can think of?
Not today, but definitely willing to think about it more, but we're putting the ball in your court and asking you to come back with something else. I mean,
We're not going to do that. Simply put, that was our attempt at moving something closer to what we heard. This does not work. I'm just going to say it for the benefit of the group. This does not work to say, no, we don't like it, not good enough, try again. We've done it multiple times because we're trying to find a way to put something in front of you that we can agree to. But at some point, y'all got to do the work.
well, we've done a lot of work here. There's like 4 different parts to this, and there's been multiple parts that we have been agreeable on. Okay, and so we're happy to think about this more. The ball is in your court, and if you want to come back and not change it all and give that message, the refusal to negotiate on that part, okay, we hear it. We'll think about it in the meantime, but the ball's in your court.
I would encourage you to do that.
Okay.
Are you saying that our counter that we presented is not movement?
I'm talking about the promotional process article that we've done this a few times where you've expressed concerns, and I hear where they're coming from. I'm not questioning that at all. What I'm saying though is asking us, saying no, we don't like it, and asking us to keep trying is not.
Well, that's
not a helpful way of moving.
That's not what
forward.
we're doing. Are you?
Well, that's what I heard
I
council
understand.
just say. So if you would like to correct my understanding, I'm happy to be
trying to.
Okay.
If you recall, we literally sent an attempt to find middle ground based on statements that we heard from the city yesterday.
Yes. Right.
Are you calling that a mischaracterization, a discounting of our efforts there, or what is that?
No. So let me back up. I'm referring to the comments we just heard in response to what we passed after we received your proposed language this morning.
Yes.
So what I just heard a few minutes ago was, we don't like this union, we don't like this try again city. And that's what I'm saying is, if there are things that you can come up with, that would be beneficial to us to have you come back, much like you did this morning, right? To bring something back so that we can work on that.
Yeah, what you also heard him say was that we were discussing it, and with the time allotted, we didn't come up with anything. So I don't understand.
Understood.
Trying to phrase this in a sense of, we're just saying no, try again. It's absolutely not.
Okay.
What's happening here?
Okay. Well, the suggestion was the ball was in our court to try again. And so if I, there's no technically here. If I misunderstood that, and what I hear you saying is that the union's willing to look at this and come back with something else.
So we'll think about it, but we just made a counter proposal, a full package proposal, and it's up to you to come back. And you're,
Whatever.
I mean, you can laugh it off if you want. You don't, I mean,
I think what Chad also said is, for our membership to even consider something so major impact to our membership comes at a cost to the city.
What is that cost?
It's up to you.
Make us an offer.
Yeah,
How are,
like, okay, I'll make it easy. It comes at a cost. Could be a monetary cost, could be another benefit, those things that we have on the table.
Well, like I explained this morning, we did withdraw our proposal on the SRO schedule. So that was the price that we were willing to pay.
For
related to the promotional process, to sweeten the pot for the union to be able to agree to that, because there are a number of things that are out there on the table that both sides are asking for. And so our attempt to get closer on some of these issues was to take that off the table.
And our counter was an attempt, we were assuming, and my fault for assuming, our counter was trying to soften the concerns for 6-year officers having a preference over external based on comments we heard. That was that attempt. So
Yes.
so this isn't a stonewalling from the union. This is us, we're trying to hear each other here, and I think we're trying to make moves here. But understand, we've reiterated multiple times, the pinnacle of what our membership has made it oh so very clear is base wages. And if we're to come to them and say the city is asking for a language change or a changing or a moving or removal of rights or benefits that are found in a contract, that scale is going to have to get balanced somehow. And if the membership will see that as either a monetary benefit, like AJ said, a monetary benefit or some other type of benefit, but if they see that just being removed from them, I'm telling you now, there's no way we could get a package passed. They'll have to see the scales be balanced somehow.
What would that price look like for you? Out of curiosity.
Well, we
Are
just
talking
sent
about
we just sent a wage proposal. So there's where we are now.
but you're proposing that and keeping the language, right? So I'm inferring that you need something higher than what you're proposing to even consider removing that language, right? You would want to, what, 8%, 10%, 12%? What, I'm curious as to what that would look like.
Well, you want us to show you all our cards? Maybe, you know.
I mean, I think what's clear here is that the union really cares about being able to have long-standing Boise police officers working their way all the way up into the ranks, right? All the way up and through. And it's worth a lot more on this side, it would appear, than perhaps the city has recognized or understood previously. And that's where we're at.
I mean, the city's position is, as it has been this whole time, that we should be in the position to hire the most qualified candidate, period.
And
That hasn't
and the
changed.
city and the chief sets the qualifications for applying for this stuff. I mean, it's not like you're deciding between unqualified and qualified candidates. It's deciding between qualified candidates already, right? That's the way the process works.
Well,
Are you
this
saying-
process hasn't worked particularly well. That is
It's
the
not this part of
problem.
the process that was broken previously. And we presented suggestions for how to
Try and solve that.
solve the problems we've had previously,
The problems you've had, not the problems the city has had.
which
Right.
are.
Chief, do you want to go into the problems we've had with the promotional process?
Please, we could use the
Yeah.
it sounds like we're dancing around something here. If we could get clarification so we can nail some language down, let's do it.
And I believe we just had 3 qualified sergeants test for a lieutenant spot. So, I mean, I'm
I
not sure
guess
that's
going
accurate.
back several years, right, to find an example that would illustrate a concern that we would have. I guess names are appropriate at this point. You had an officer test for sergeant and get promoted to sergeant, and that would be then Sergeant Brinkelson. Brinkelson tested for lieutenant, and the way that things were handled then, he passed the promotional process, right? He passed the test, he was able to do the job, and essentially at that time, whatever the case may be, he was promoted to lieutenant because he was a qualified sergeant and passed the test. Not necessarily, obviously, as things turn out, we don't have a crystal ball at the time, but as things turned out, that did not go well. Over time, he was promoted to lieutenant and then promoted to captain, and then things came to light. So not using that as here's the deal with that thing, but I guess a chief should have the ability to either promote or not promote a candidate who has passed the process. And in the language that we've been discussing and going back and forth on, I don't believe that a chief, according to the language that was proposed by the union, would have the ability to not promote somebody who had passed the test before either promoting somebody else or taking somebody from outside because they will be deemed qualified. But we may have other concerns, right, about promoting them. This language unduly inhibits, I believe, or the city believes that it unduly inhibits the police chief from making a hiring or promotional decision for a lieutenant, which is not governed by the union. You're not a member of the union any longer when you become a lieutenant. And it just is problematic for the city.
So are we thinking that people in command have knowledge of Bringelson's issues when he promoted to lieutenant?
No.
Well, that's,
I can,
But there were other concerns.
I can give you an example without saying names of a sergeant that had tested for lieutenant and did not pass the test and therefore wasn't promoted. And that was in the last, like, estimated 3 years or 2 years.
This language was written 2 years ago.
So, I mean, you have the ability not to promote someone that's not qualified.
Right, but the disconnect here is the union's position, if I understand it correctly, is that if someone is minimally qualified, then the department is obligated to promote that person, not to be able to promote somebody else who is more qualified.
We're talking about test scores.
Min qual versus.
We're talking about test scores.
I mean,
And I like the.
Well, you're
fact-
talking, you're talking about test scores in what sense? That if somebody passes a certain level,
That's what you're.
they are
talking
now
about.
qualified,
That's what you're talking.
and therefore the internal candidate must receive the promotion, instead of what we're talking about, which is if we have somebody else who has applied, who is clearly far more experienced or qualified in certain ways, we wouldn't have the opportunity under the union's language to promote that person, right?
Correct.
That's the issue that we're talking about.
I appreciate the fact that you used the one-off that we had by using Bringelson, but any other cases where you can think of, because you used that one for Bringelson, but
That one's certainly
was there,
widespread in the media. I don't think I would like to drag other people's names into the conversation. But I think the union membership or leadership could probably generate a list of people that have been promoted to lieutenant that they would think were not necessarily the best qualified, or that the city should have promoted those folks to lieutenant internally. Can you think of anyone in the last 10 years that was a lieutenant that you would think wasn't a good lieutenant or shouldn't have been promoted to lieutenant? Not asking you to say the name, but can you think of anyone?
Well, I mean, that's a low, I mean, you could say that about anyone. You could say an officer we hired or a records clerk. I mean, that's a slippery slope.
Correct.
we can also talk about people that we brought in from the outside that were way qualified on paper, and as soon as they got here, really messed stuff up. And they were in command.
Cuts both ways.
Chief, isn't there room and I've read through the policy a bit, but don't sit in your shoes that much, but isn't there room for BPD to open this up internally only? And then if there are no because if you open it up internally and there are successful candidates, the chief has the discretion among the successful candidates to promote or not promote. And can't you at that point choose not to promote and then do a whole nother process shortly thereafter and open it up to externals?
I don't believe we can open it up to externals without opening it up
Again,
internally again,
right,
according to the language that's in place now. And generally speaking, the driving factor for us to have looked outside the agency is simply when we do not have enough qualified candidates to fill the positions that are open. We had an unprecedented thing, right? For a while, we had 9 lieutenants openings when I came back years ago for the first few months, and we had 3 people apply. And so taken a lot of steps to try to rectify some of the things that were preventing people from applying. We think we are certainly on better footing today, as evidenced by the recent lieutenant's test, and we have 3 qualified internal candidates. It is our intent, certainly, to hire from within, to promote from within, to develop our leaders, to do all those things that we're talking about. That is the intention. That's the way the system is designed to work. And we don't have any desire to go even open the testing outside unless we face another unprecedented situation like we did a couple of years ago. So it's just a matter of this language absolutely ties hands when those very unusual circumstances present themselves, which I would hope would never happen again, but it did happen, so it's fresh in our mind fairly recently that we did go outside and we hired 6 lieutenants externally and 3 internally to fill those positions. So
Do you remember what the driving force of that was? Why we didn't have enough sergeants for those positions?
the message that I heard primarily were twofold. One was financial, and the other was they did not want to promote into a command position based on the atmosphere or the culture within the department at that time and the leadership of the department. Did I hit those 2?
I think so, yes.
That was my understanding.
One of them being lieutenant's pay.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I mean. Financial, yes. Financial incentives or disincentives.
Okay.
And that's why I say we've made some strides to
Yeah.
address that. And we believe that at this point we have remedied that situation sufficiently to encourage people to apply.
Did this language exist when you were promoted to sergeant?
I don't believe so.
I just
That was
don't know how old-
1999.
I don't know how old this language is. That's why I'm asking.
I'd have to go back and look at the contract.
Because I know this
I
was
don't
currently
think
written as 2 years old, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
this
So
language is 2 years old.
I don't know, and I don't.
Previous was 2011 and then 2007. And then before that was 97. That's when they were just civil service rules
Okay.
and not the.
No, they are today. Okay.
And there were testing parameters. There were minimum scores in the old ones. There was the chief had the ability to pick from 1, 2, 3. If
Yeah,
you
list
go
3.
and if you look at in this one, for your knowledge, Todd, if you look in this one under the sergeant's testing process, the lieutenant process almost mirrored that with the selection as well, with the exception of there was not a written test for the lieutenants. It was still an assessment, but it almost mirrored the sergeant process. Now, we could go back to look at something with a top 3 candidates
Chief
with the selection process.
pick who he wants.
Any interest in that? So if you had your top three candidates,
Like in this situation.
And-
currently.
let's say that the situation is your top three candidates are the top guy is wherever he came from, ISP or pick an agency. And your number two guy, your 2 and 3 by scoring alone were BPD guys. He can pick from the top three, but BPD officer gets preference. So he has the discretion of the top three, but that BPD officer gets preference.
So I couldn't select number one.
You couldn't select number one, so you couldn't select number one. It would look like, just playing it out of my mind, you couldn't select number one at that point.
So hypothetically speaking, if you had the top three, the first one being an outside agency member, the second and third being BPD, and say there was a deep bench, say 4, 5, and 6 were BPD. I couldn't select the outside. I'd have to select number 2 or number 3. Then the next one would bump up and I would have to select number 2 or number 3. So I'd have to exhaust this list before I could ever pick the number one candidate.
And this is coming from lack of, I haven't been here a long time. When this mirrored the sergeant's language, what did that look like? Did it have a preference for internal candidates on that mirroring at that time for the civil service rules?
I don't know that I.
Okay.
On the civil service rules, there was no provision, or under the previous
There
contract,
was no internal preference.
There was no provision for external.
there is no provision for external candidates.
Because we never needed it.
Correct.
And wasn't there a push at some point recently to make the process simultaneous as opposed to giving the process to internal candidates first, and then if there aren't enough successful, then moving on to outside? Wasn't that changed recently?
That was changed for this contract.
Yeah,
2 years ago, that was changed.
You know, we sought the ability, and I think the union agreed at the time that we could run a simultaneous process, but treat the candidates separately.
So you went internal first, then external.
Correct.
But prior to that, it was you just do internal before considering external. It just seems
We didn't ever consider external.
Yeah.
So you would say,
The only time we've ever hired is within the last 3.5 years, 4 years.
did you say that it was always your preference if you could to promote internally? Like it's working now, you got pay raises?
Certainly, the intent is that we develop leaders inside the department. That's
Right.
always our first choice.
Because you put the money in and the investment in them. That makes sense. So with the current language, there was a workaround. Isn't that kind of what we have now? Where you can promote an internal person, and if you can't find one, because that's your preference, then you can go external? I mean, isn't that what we currently have, what you want?
Again, the city's perspective is that the promotional process for lieutenants really shouldn't be governed by a collective labor contract with the union. Because lieutenants are not part of that agreement, not part of the union. They're not covered by the union. So the city's preference would be that there really isn't anything related to lieutenants' promotional processes governed by the union contract. Am I couching that
Yep.
correctly for you?
except for the people who are being promoted into those lieutenant positions, hopefully are coming from the union, right? And have union connections. And that way we have, long-term BPD officers who've grown up in the department, right? Making it into command and everybody being able to work well together, as opposed to just feeling like there's outsiders on top, kind of governing the union members below, right?
By outsiders, do you mean outsiders who are more qualified than the inside candidates? I feel like we just keep having the exact same conversation.
And it feels like there's that the city isn't giving any value to the value that comes with having spent so much time in the department and knowing all the people and knowing the community and knowing the culture, right? And just because somebody on paper is more qualified, there's also a bunch of stuff you can't know about people from the outside, right? When you send out surveys within the department to hear things about people who are trying to promote you can't send those surveys for somebody from Dallas or wherever they're coming, right? And so there's some real serious like benefits to hiring from within. And so, and they're not quantifiable. And I think that's why it's so easy
How do
for
you
us to agree
quantify
or
the
disagree.
unquantifiable? It's
Well, that's why we intend to leave that to the discretion of the chief.
And I would just point out in the most recent proposal that we made, it was putting the language back in near the end of page 1, where the line of promotion shall be probationary officer to police officer to sergeant, sergeant to lieutenant. That is the line of promotion. And then the language at the end that we proposed, if in the chief's discretion, the candidates are equally qualified, the chief shall give preference to the internal candidate. I think that demonstrates that we want to promote from within. We put a shall give preference to the internal candidate. I'm fine giving preference to the internal candidate if they're equally qualified. I think we use the situation to have somebody that passed with a 70.5 and the passing score 70, and then you had somebody else that was a 95, clearly head and shoulders above in experience level and all skills and abilities. This would require us to promote a lesser qualified candidate, and we're just trying to avoid that scenario.
understood. Easy.
Next steps.
I mean, what I heard was an unwillingness to make a counter proposal to our last one at the beginning of this. And so is that still where you guys stand, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, for the reasons that we've discussed, we've tried to be responsive to the concerns that we heard. And I don't know. We've identified what the issue is, I think, and I think we all understand the difference between minimum qualification versus most qualified, and what that determination would then indicate must happen under whatever language, this language versus different language. And so I can't sit here and tell you that we will have anything different than what we have, because we pushed pretty hard and we stretched pretty hard to get to what we gave you the last time. Because what we really wanted and feel like we needed for the department was what we gave you previously. But hearing the concerns, we wanted to do something to alleviate some of those concerns in a way that addressed them, but also gave the department what it needed to be able to operate efficiently and effectively. And so sitting here right now, I cannot commit to you that there will be anything in response.
And that's just with regard to the promotional process.
Yes, on the promotional process.
How about on the base pay?
Yeah, I mean, everything is still under discussion for sure.
We're still
It might be a healthy exercise to set the proposal process aside for a minute and try to work on some other things and then come back to it knowing that it's looming out there.
Yeah, I don't know that works particularly well from our standpoint, because this is a high priority item. And so I think it has to be in play, and because it informs all the other items on our list. And so to set it aside, I think is potentially problematic, because we can get as far as we want on everything else, but we are where we are on the promotional process, and that has to come back in. And so we can keep having conversations, certainly. Nobody's saying that we're done or anything like that. But I can't emphasize enough to you the significance of this language and how it fits within the city's broader agenda.
Understood.
I'd hate for us to part ways today. I mean, definitely, I think that the union is willing to continue to look at this language and think about it. And so I don't know if you're saying that the city has, I mean, I would hope that the city would be willing to do so as well, because I think a lot of good words were just exchanged and there's probably room to figure this out.
We got to the root of it today, so I think, yeah, we just need time to talk. So I don't know if we're gonna get that done in the next hour, but I appreciate saying what frankly probably need to be said. So I think we got to the root cause of it. So I think we'll go our way and talk. We would just hope that you guys also look for can hear our concerns and look for language that we can try and find a way in the middle somehow. We can, as David said earlier, finagle it. Get in my head. So, but like I said, I appreciate the willingness to speak that out. I think it makes things just cleaner, frankly.
Sure. So what do you propose to do with our time going forward? Are you suggesting that we break for the day? Are you suggesting there's come back for?
Yeah. You have our proposals, other ones too, right? That you're still looking at. So you want to take the time to look at those ones and so we can think about some of the things we talked about.
Yeah,
Sure.
In the
We
meantime,
drummed up some ideas for you as well.
yeah, in the meantime, we're not going to be able to, I'll just say this, we're not going to be able to come up with something substantive in regards to the promotional process by the end of today. We're not going to get there. So if you guys are waiting for that, I'll just tell you now, I don't want you guys to have to wait for that. If you guys feel that there's something from a counter that you could give us today in regards to maybe something else, like in regards to base wage or something in that regards, we're happy to wait for that if you need to caucus for that. But when it comes to the promotional process, we're not going to be able to come to anything solid and get something written up and proposed today. That's not going to get done today. So I don't want to hang you out on sitting in the room for now.
Sure. No, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Maybe for right now, why don't we take just a shorter caucus to have a conversation on our side to figure out whether there's more that we feel like we can accomplish today.
Okay.
And so then we'll do that now and come back.
It's 2:48.
3 o'clock.
3
Uh,
o'clock, 3:10.
Yeah, let's make it
3:12.
let's make it 3:10, just so we don't have to push it.
All right. Thank you.
So just taking a little bit of time to talk about where things stand and what else we might have that we could accomplish today. I think from our standpoint, I think like you were saying with the issues that you need to look at, you need more time. We need some more time to spend figuring out where we go from here and how we move forward. I mean, quite frankly, we don't have all that much room left. And so we've got to figure out from our standpoint how we get in front of you, whatever it is that we're going to be able to do. And so we need to sit down and look a little more closely at everything we've got out there.
Okay.
Because we don't have a lot of room. So I would propose that that we figure out when we can next get together. We did compare calendars,
Okay.
and schedules, always are a challenge with the various folks that we have involved. The earliest date that we could identify was October 15th. So that's the soonest available following
Okay.
the meeting today. I believe that's a Tuesday. And I know the front half of the week was not ideal, but
Okay.
we were looking at the first available.
Would that just be a 1 day or
We can only get 1 day.
because yeah. I was gonna say the farmstead's the next day, so that'd be a little tough.
So today's the 6th and we're October 15th,
October 15th.
over a month.
Okay. Would it be same times 9 to 4?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, we haven't talked about adjusting those times at all, but that's if there was,
If you want
Well,
to,
we're available, like we're here, so we
we just need to know for the,
I do not want to come in any earlier. That's
you can if you want.
if I really feel motivated, yeah.
We can add an hour to the end. I would just need to know, and because it's a public meeting and it has to be noticed,
Okay,
just kind of make it up.
Okay.
So we would just need to know about 7 days in advance.
fair enough. Okay.
would you guys be willing to? I know that's what the calendars looks like now, but if something opens up between now and then, could we touch base and see if maybe we can get another date in before October 15th? If something opens up,
if something opens up, of course, yes. Yeah.
Anything after October 15th?
We focused on the first available. So if you'd like, after we break, we can look at some, like what would be next
That'd be great.
and send you some additional sets of dates.
Please.
I appreciate it.
Okay, we will do that. Anything else from your side before we
No,
break for the day?
I think we pretty much covered it. Like I said, I appreciate the discussions. I think we've gotten most of the fluff out of the way and gotten to the root cause of what's going on. So we'll be able to proceed from here with that
Okay.
understanding.
Good.
Yeah, we can be done.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
No, we appreciate it.
Thanks.